the U.S. liberal class, bourgeois liberals, these ruling class liberals are so thirsty for war that they will say and do anything to support NATO, to support this proxy war on Russia. They don't even care what the facts are. These people are such puppets of the establishment, of the imperialists, that they don't even care what the facts are. So the American Federation of Teachers, one of the largest teachers unions in the country, if not it is the largest. She's in Ukraine, Randy Weingarten. And so Randy Weingarten, I mean, she is a well-known Democratic Party establishment hack. Much of the big, what is called international unions, really, it's a misnomer. It's really national, but they're called internationals in the spirit of when there were international socialist internationals, right? Like large groupings, nations of working class representatives. You know, that's where that language comes from. Randy Weingarten is notorious, though, for being an establishment hack. She's notorious for just supporting the Democrats. She's basically a campaigner for the Democrats at this point. She's probably one of the most stark examples of this phenomenon, okay, of the marriage between labor leadership, the what Lenin would call the labor aristocracy, and the Democratic Party. So here, and I'm going to play this for you because she is in Ukraine. She's in Ukraine. She's in a war zone. And she's promoting war from a war zone and covering it up, right? Glossing it over as solidarity with Ukraine's teachers. So here we go.
So, we've been in Zamość for the last couple of hours and checking in on the people that we were visiting in Ukraine and Lviv. And we've made a decision that we're going to go to Lviv and talk to the union leaders there, and that we're not going to let Putin get away with terrorizing people. Putin terrorized people today with this wave of indiscriminate bombings throughout the cities of Ukraine, as he has terrorized people since February. So our trip.
Does that sound genuine to you all? First of all, it sounds like she's never talked about this in her life because she can't even say Putin. She says Putin, right? But she then talks about she's not going to let them. You're not going to let. What do you have to do with Russia? You're a U.S.-based teachers union leader, supposedly a leader of teachers, but she's a teachers union leader, and she ended up in Ukraine on a dime, right? Basically, prancing out there and doing the shucking and jiving for the Biden administration. This is what this is.
Of solidarity and bearing witness is probably more important today than it was when we planned it. And so the schools are closed. Children are learning remotely or in bunkers right now. But the union leadership wants to meet with us, and we want to meet with them. And so we're on our way to Lviv.
So Randy Weingarten, right? A champion of solidarity. Well, little do people know that the AFL-CIO, and this is why the labor movement is in such trouble in the United States. It's because labor leadership, this isn't a new phenomenon. This has been since before the Cold War. The old AFL, the old Samuel Gompers AFL had an organization that preceded Solidarity. This organization was the what was it called now? It was it was free. What was it? The Free Trade Union Council, the FTUC. But that was replaced, right? That was replaced by what was called the American Institute for Free Labor Development. That preceded what we have now as Solidarity, the Solidarity Center. These are U.S. government funded by primarily the National Endowment for Democracy, but many other organizations as well. So basically what these organizations do is they cultivate an imperialist policy for American labor unions. So US labor leaders like Randy Weingarten here, she gets paid through these AFL CIO unions, uh, they are paid through these foundations to basically do the bidding of imperialism. So the National Endowment for Democracy is the big funder of Solidarity. And they have a huge reputation all across Latin America, right? Supporting anti-Bolivarian, anti-Hugo Chavez, Maduro forces in Venezuela. But really, since the Cold War, and even before that, where it was the labor movement, the US government was trying to collaborate with Gompers, and then George Meany after that, who was the head of the AFL-CIO for quite some time, to collaborate with these forces to eradicate any kind of socialist influence in the labor movement. And then also to use these corrupted pro-capitalist, pro-imperialist leaders in their foreign policy. So that's the goal of these organizations. That's the goal of Solidarity, right? That's what's going on here. That's why you see Randy Weingarten in Ukraine. I don't see Randy Weingarten talking to the labor union in China, right? The All People's Federation of Trade Unions in China. I don't see that. I don't see her going to Venezuela or Cuba. I don't see her talking to trade union leaders there. I don't see her going to Syria or anywhere else like that to so-called U.S. adversaries. Now she'll go to a country that right now is being funded to the tune of tens of billions of dollars with U.S. military aid, which is taking away from U.S. workers. She's going there to supposedly lend support to them, when in reality what she's doing is she is championing U.S. The U.S. proxy war on behalf of the Democrats. That's what she's doing. And so conflict of interest, a little bit, maybe just a little bit. It's a little bit of a conflict of interest, but none of this is deemed sensitive. You can go to a war zone and say you support U.S. proxy wars and fuel the propaganda. Talk about, oh, Putin's so horrible for bombing Kiev, while never saying a word about the U.S. bombing countries all around the world. Never say a word, 40 per day or something ridiculous, all right? A ridiculous amount of bombs per day drop in the United States. Never say anything about it, but that's not sensitive to Twitter. Twitter will only censor you for bringing up what is factual about Ukraine. And then it gets worse because of the kill list, which Wyatt Reed will talk about tomorrow, which literally is targeting people like Roger Waters, of all people, including Wyatt and others, for merely speaking out for peace and merely talking about inconvenient truths about Ukraine, which don't satisfy the interests of the military-industrial complex or the United States or NATO. I mean, that's what we have here. We have this situation where you can only say with confidence that it won't be censored, won't be demonetized, won't be taken down, won't be covered up, won't be pushed down the algorithm. You can only say what NATO, what the US, what the EU, what they want you to say, right? You can repeat their talking points. That's not sensitive, even if it kills people in the thousands, millions, even if it brings us to the brink of nuclear war. You can say whatever they want you to say. But if your interest is peace, if your interest is in the truth, if your interest is in stopping wars, if your interest is in supporting a more fair and just world order that's more balanced, that has leadership from multiple players, multiple countries, and that adapts aspects of social systems that are different, that are alternatives to US imperialism and US-led Western imperialism, then it's sensitive. Then you're censored, essentially. So that's that on that story, okay? I just wanted to show you what Twitter is doing and how it fits here, right? Because what we have is just such liberal opportunism. Neoliberals and neocons have come together, have created this situation where you have people like Randy Weingarten just gallivanting across a supposed war zone, supporting U.S. government institutions like led institutions like NATO through what they won't tell you, which is through U.S. government funded organizations like Solidarity, funded by the National Endowment for Democracy, funded by USAID, funded by the State Department, all to undermine places like Venezuela, Haiti, and even Ukraine. Those labor unions she's about to meet with, those are all U.S. sponsored unions that are undermining Ukraine's actual economic sovereignty, that are helping to keep the status quo. That is the real crime here. A trade union leader, actors like Mark Ruffalo, these so-called do-gooders, actually using their status and their capacity to say whatever they want to cover up and forward the crimes of NATO, the crimes of the U.S. empire.